Welcome to SoMo Garage, bringing you the latest racing news, sim racing talk, driver chat, and highlights from the SoMo Racing Leagues with SoMo Racing League drivers. Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Get ready for 1 hour of kicking the tires in the SoMo Garage with your hosts, Aaron Reilly and Paul Zotta. SoMo Garage starts right now.
Good evening, and welcome to SoMo Garage. I'm Aaron Reilly, along with Joe Mitchell, Paul Zotta, and a special guest tonight, Steve Burnett. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing pretty good. How are you?
Not too bad. Not too bad. We survived Pocono, so... Well, some of us survived Pocono.
Yeah, Pocono wasn't really bad, man. I'll tell you what, guys did a great job, man, in both series at Pocono this week, in the Lazy Days Racing Xfinity Series and the Lazy Days Racing Cup Series. 55 laps Wednesday night in the Xfinity and 3 cautions. And then Thursday night, 65 laps at Pocono in the Cup Series, man, and 1 caution. And, guys weren't just out there driving around, man. So it's got to be the last, 3 weeks or so. Man, things have taken a turn for the positive here.
Yeah, I'm really seeing it turn around. It's a nice change, that's for sure. And I forgot to mention Stephen Parks is on with us tonight too, and he did broadcast for us on Thursday. And I didn't get a chance to listen to that. Stephen, how did it go?
It went pretty good. It was a good race to broadcast, and it was a good show put on by SoMo altogether.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good to see everything come together. How'd your week go, Stephen Burnett?
It went pretty good. I mean, with the new build that came out, I was practicing a little bit before the actual race, and I mean the car. I don't know. To me, the car felt like it felt a whole lot better. Still a little loose coming off the corners, but kind of what y'all were saying. I was impressed with the drive that everybody had. I mean, when we had that first quick caution, I was kind of thinking, oh, here we go. It's going to be caution after caution. But
Yep.
Once it went through, I mean, it became a fuel mileage for that race.
Yeah, it did. I was surprised because we didn't run a ton of laps there, but it was just the right amount of laps for fuel strategy to definitely be key there at the end. And we didn't really have that many cautions, so it was definitely it came down to fuel mileage at the end. And I know a few guys had to save a few laps to make it to the end, and it was definitely cool to see all that work out. I thought I was doing good. I'm passing all these people, and turns out they were saving fuel, and I wasn't. I was like, I get down to the last 10 laps, and I'm like, oh man, I'm not going to make it. So I said, the heck with it, and pitted and just got tires and figured I might as well go fast around there. I know I'm not going to win the race. So.
Yeah, and I went back and I watched the broadcast, right? I couldn't watch it till 2 days later, but I went back to watch it, and Steven did a great job, man. He had a real good format and everything, too. It was really, really good to see. But as I was going through the broadcast, I see he got me going down the pits, sliding through the pits and having to back up. And I was like, oh, great. Had to be on me at that time.
Yeah, I was flipping around looking for that stuff.
Yeah, it was definitely a cool race. I love Pocono. I'm never any good there. It seems like you're either really good there or you're really bad there. And some of the guys that ran up front, they were just off the chain fast. And I really wish I knew what the trick was, but dang. I mean, they were doing it every lap. They were getting it done. So congratulations to those guys, for putting on a good show. And everybody, really. I mean, it was really a good, clean race. And, now we move on to, I think, Michigan, right?
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Yeah, I think we need to bring those top guys in the hauler and check those motors out.
Yeah, something's not right, huh? I want their files.
Yeah, I tell you, they've always been quick. I've ran with Chris and the 09 can't remember his name now.
Keith,
Keith, yes. I've ran with them in the past, and I mean they've always been quick. I think the other Chris too. He's the one that won. He's been quick all season. I tell you, I hadn't had the season I've wanted. I think I've only had like 3 top tens this year. A lot of DNFs. I just couldn't figure out the cars. I mean, last year, when we were running the car, and we've talked about this before, the cars were good, and with all the different updates and the changes, the cars just didn't really seem like they sat on the track. I mean, it just felt like they were above the track. But I think it's starting to kind of get back around to how it was, and I think you'll start seeing a lot more hard racing.
Yeah, it definitely it has improved, and we've all talked about this, on previous shows and stuff. But it was almost like we were driving with those plastic Hot Wheels tires running around the racetrack. I mean, literally just sliding across the top of the racetrack and never getting any kind of grip at all. And even then, there was still guys that were blowing everybody's doors off. So it's amazing how people that are just really good can adapt to any circumstance or situation. But I do feel like it's coming back around, and I feel like they are on the right track. I think they still got a little bit of work to do, and but I do feel like they are heading in the right direction, which is a positive for sure.
Well, what was the last thing in the update? Wasn't it something to do with the dynamic track again and the tire? Because I heard a couple guys say it looked different on the track this time while we were racing, and I think Steven even asked one of the guys in the interview if they kind of felt the difference on it, and I don't know, man.
They changed how the track warms up and cools down throughout the race. So, if everybody's running one line, that part of the track will heat up, and then if everybody shifts as the race goes on, that the line that everybody was previously running will cool down and almost come to the state before the race started.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that because it may give the opportunity for people to start moving around on the racetrack and finding different lines that work better for them, and that's really what I want to see. I want to see the real NASCAR come out, and you see these guys running 2 or 3 wide, making a few different lanes work, and we really don't have that. It's like you might see 2 lanes sometimes, but usually everybody's running the same lane, and they just wait for somebody to make a mistake so they can drive by them.
Yeah.
Steven, tell us about your season so far. I know you were saying it wasn't that good to start off, but from the very beginning to now, what's going on with you? We haven't talked to you in a while.
Yeah, I mean, dating all the way back to Daytona. Yeah, I believe I think I led most of the laps at Daytona and go in the pits. I think we had about 10 to go, and didn't change the tires, because I'm thinking, hey, it's Daytona, but kind of with the track state and all, there's a lot more stuff that you have to kind of take into to factor now. And obviously I didn't, and I spun it, hit the wall, blew the motor, and after that, I mean, it was just DNF after DNF, and it's kind of getting frustrated. I mean, I think a bunch of us, all together, it just wasn't having the runs that, you want to, and I had to take a couple of weeks off here and there for family reasons, but coming back the past 4 or 5 races, I know I've had 1 DNF in the past 4 or 5, but for the most part, it's been top 10. So trying to get that feel back, and trying to make that 16th spot for that chase. That's the biggest part in the Lazy Days Racing Sprint Cup that I'm looking forward to.
Now, are you running the Xfinity, or are you just strictly running Cup right now?
No, just strictly Cup. I was going to try to run some Xfinity and trucks, but with just the time frame, it just don't work out. And kind of midway through the season, I really don't want to go in and mess somebody else up that maybe running for points or anything like that. So basically just sticking with the cup cars and work on those and try to get my first win this year.
Yeah, that's definitely important. But just as long as you're in the top, 16, you'll be in good shape going in. That's I think that's what I'm shooting for right now. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get a win this year. So hopefully I just make enough races and finish so I'm in the top 16. But tell us about I can't remember because it's been a while since I've talked to you. What kind of wheel you running?
I run the G27 wheel. It's actually I've got a little steering shaft hooked up to where I've got a racing wheel. It's a driven 15 and a half that I'm able to put on and take off. The rig that I made, it's all out of square tubing and welded it all together. Got a racing seat, little dash with all the, it's a 32 button box is what I use. And running the 3 screens, which once you run 3 screens, you can never go back to 1.
Yep.
I don't know. Once you go to the riff, you can't go back either.
But it's fun. I mean, I've kind of made it for just oval racing, which I know we were talking a little bit about the road racing stuff. I don't really get to do much road racing because of the way I have this thing set up. I don't have my paddle shifters, so road racing is not really something I can use too much. But the rig I have is set up for oval racing.
Now, if you make it to the chase, what's your mindset going forward? I usually ask this question of different people that we interview, and some people have different opinions on it. But all right, so you say you make it in the top 16, you get in the chase. Just consistent, clean finishes, or do you try to go for wins? Or I mean, what would be your strategy?
Really and truthfully, I think it would. If you make it to that top 16, you have to look at winning a race because you got those 3 segments, and if you don't win the race, and you're trying to base yourself and not be in that bottom 4. And I know last year I did good all the way up until the third. The third one, I was sitting second or third in the points, and come to the third one, and I think I know I spun out on one, I got wrecked on another one, and had a good finish on the third one, but it just wasn't enough. So you kind of have to go in with that mindset of you want to win no matter what.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Man, it's hard to get a win here, isn't it? I mean, it really
man,
is.
I tell you, I mean, we got 20-something, 25, 26 drivers week in and week out on Thursday that I've noticed, and I would say the top 14 to 16 guys. I mean, it's anybody's race, and that can be frustrating in a way, but at the same time, it makes for good, clean, fun running. And most everybody here, I think, can run with each other side by side, and you don't have to worry about, is that guy going to hold his lane coming off the corner, or is he going to drive it too far in and wreck both of you.
Yeah, they're definitely good, clean drivers. And I notice the more I run around these guys and race with them, I feel the same way. I feel pretty confident that most of them can definitely hold their line. Definitely have a few that can't, for sure. But
well, you take Lupe, and I know he won the championship last year, but you take him and how he runs, you will not see him in the first half of that race, and then all of a sudden it's like he got a brand new car and he is out in front, and I mean, and he still does that today out at Pocono. I only had, I think, 0.2 gallons left when I crossed the line, but I was right behind him for third, and I knew if I pushed it too much I was going to run out of fuel. But the way that he's able to keep that car clean, and a lot of guys do it, but Lupe just sticks out in my mind with the way that he'll run the first half of the race and you won't even know where he's at, and next thing you know, he's passing you like he's got fresh tires and y'all been on him for 40 laps.
Yeah, he's good. I raced around Lupe quite a bit, and I just I can't get that guy though, because like sometimes he'll do exactly like what you just said, and sometimes he'll just run like on a restart he'll just run his tires right off in 10 laps, and then everybody's passing him. So I mean, Lupe's good. I mean, he really is, and and I noticed in the last 2 or 3 weeks he's gotten a lot more consistent with doing what what you were saying, with being right there, being there at the end. But yeah, I've seen it go other both ways with him, but he's still a heck of a driver though, and I think I don't think he's done winning championships for sure.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've got some great guys here, and I'm not going to name them all, but everybody knows week in and week out. Usually if you run in a league somewhere, you're probably going to have a handful of drivers that hey, they're going to win every week. But in this league here, I mean, it's up for grabs every single week.
Just seems like right now it's Grosso is the one on fire.
Yeah, I was noticing that he's quick, most definitely. And he's clean running. I mean, I know I've been able to run with him a few times, and I mean, he's consistent with the way he does it, and that's ultimately what I'm trying to figure out with these cars, with the track state, all these updates and the temperatures and all that stuff. It's not like whenever I first came in. I think I started in about 6-7 years ago. It's not like you would just start your car and you run your laps. I mean, you have to put everything in perspective, and with the temperature on the track changing, you have to make sure you have good tires.
And the rubber going down, and I mean, it's just crazy because you really got to search, and you really got to like kind of pick your spots,
Yeah, I mean, used to, if you came into a practice room, or you look at the fast times and you're like, all right, that's where I need to be. Well, if you're running late and you come in 30 minutes, 40 minutes late, you go in there, you're going to be almost a half, if not a full second off of the fast guys, because that track's already changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a big change from even a couple of years ago when SoMo got started. Man, it's so much different. The racing's so much harder, or the racing's better, but I mean it's just so much harder. The competition's just there now. So if you win a race, you're definitely on your game. You don't, unless you happen to fall into a win, which does happen from time to time. But if I ever have a chance to win a race here, I'm gonna definitely savor that moment, because you never know when the next one's gonna come. And it's just it's really cool to race around these guys right now, and it definitely makes you a faster, better rounded driver racing around people that run as hard as everybody does right now.
Oh yeah, I think my last win here in SoMo in the Cup Series was Michigan in the yeah, I guess it was this time last year. So I mean, it's been almost a year since I've won in the Cup cars.
Well, you know what's coming up this week? Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you what I try to tell myself every time I'm racing, especially with these cars. You got to learn to back your corners up. If somebody's quicker on entry, but you can be quicker on exit, you'll always have that run off and be able to get them on the longer runs. And it'll help you save your tires too. Another thing that I usually do is I'm usually running either 14 or 16 to 1.
Think about ever running that high of a ratio, but the last couple of races I've started to do that. You definitely got to put more wheel into it, but I don't think you get that scrub like you do, running a 10 or a 12. It doesn't seem like it wears that right front out as fast.
Oh yeah, I mean, I remember first starting out and people running 8 to 1, and you look at 8 to 1 now, and you'd pretty much use your stuff up within 5-6 laps.
Yeah, you'll be done right away. Because I started going back here, the difference in the tire scrub and all. It's just you know, I guess until I get the memory of how much, you know, turning the wheel is involved. Because I noticed what I was doing even at Pocono. I was turning the wheel and the car would start running up towards the wall. And then I remembered I had a little bit more wheel that I could turn. And when I turned it, it kind of, you know, went with it. And I was like, man, you know, and I know I lost a little bit of time there doing that, but it definitely seems better for the long run. You know, I managed to stretch out my car definitely a lot further than I would have definitely on 12-1.
Yeah, it's definitely something that works well on a long run. Short runs, it will, but if somebody has a lesser steering ratio, it seems like they'll always prevail. You know, if you're on a 5-lap shootout or something like that, you know. But
And one thing I got to say, you know, I know later on we're going to talk a little bit about what happened in iRacing this week, but what I like is I like the changes that were made with the track, with the heat transfer, the tires and all, because, you know, and we were talking about it as admins. What we really wanted to see was multi-groove racing and having you kind of search around for that grip and, you know, not having somebody come out and just run the same line over and over, because it ain't going to work a whole race, especially with this many cars out there doing 145 laps on most of these tracks. It's definitely going to change. So I like that direction that it's gone in. And I think, you know, for me, it made it, I'm struggling a lot more realistic.
Oh, for sure.
I'll tell you this right now. I'm in a practice session for Michigan, and yeah, you could definitely tell the temperature difference now, because the preferred line right now, this is probably about midway through the practice session, and that the preferred line is like running at 110, where the top line is running, I think, at like a track temp of 85.
yeah, that definitely. It's definitely a good thing that they're bringing as much realism into the sim as possible, and you know, you can only see better things coming. You know, I mean, I can't imagine. Do you ever stop and think about how far sim racing has come from like when we started to now, and then like think about 10 years from now where it's going to be? It's unreal. I mean, I can't even imagine what we're going to be doing.
Yeah, they had on Facebook a while back a thing of like sim racing through the years, and they started off showing, you know, stuff from way back where it was kind of like block racing almost, and you know, like I think it was the evolution of sim racing or something like that. I know it's on YouTube. If you haven't seen it, get on there and type it in and go check it out, and you can see all the changes of you know, from when it was kind of really blocky with kind of no graphics, and you know, it seemed like the car sat still and the track moved towards you, to like, you know, up till now, and they bring you through all the changes, man. It's just amazing. It really is.
Yeah, it's definitely it's come such a long way from the NASCAR, you know, very early NASCAR, the Papyrus sims that came out, and even a few before that. But man, I tell you, it's a pleasure to be on iRacing. That's for sure. After, you know, running those, it seems like those were just games. You know, they weren't even sims. But you know, this actually feels like you're in a car, you're racing. You know, it just is as real as it can possibly get at this point. So, you know, you can only hope for, you know, more good things to come our way.
And you know, one more thing while we're on it, I just watched a video on Facebook also with Jeff Gordon going back into the sim. You know, there I think it's at the Chevy sim, and he was at Pocono and going around there, and they were talking about that. And there was an interview, I think after the ARCA race, I think maybe that I watched on Friday, and they were talking about how many guys use the sims to better their performance, and you know, on track and all. And I want to say, I think the guy who won the ARCA race was one of them that, you know, was in the sim, because I think it was his first win in the ARCA series. And you know, they were talking about how much the sim.
Ty Gibbs got in there, and I don't know if y'all know who Ty Gibbs is, but That's the like the nephew maybe of Joe Gibbs, but he runs in that Cars Tour, and to see him on the track here at Iracing, it's pretty cool to be able to run with some guys that actually race.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, guys, we got to get to some NASCAR talking here, so let's go ahead and take a quick break, and we'll reset and come back, and we'll get right into it.
Security in this office park is a joke. Last year I came to work with my spud gun in a duffel bag. I sat at my desk all day with a rifle that shoots potatoes at 60 pounds per square inch. Can you imagine if I was deranged?
Do more and stay active with O2 Dermalief, the ache and pain relief gel like no other. No smell, no tingling sensation, and no greasy feel. O2 Dermalief is a natural pain relief for everyday aches, pains, bumps, and bruises. Oxygen is the secret. It's the natural way to relieve and revitalize. Your joints, muscles, and skin need oxygen to thrive, and O2 Dermalief delivers a rich supply of molecular oxygen in a new, state-of-the-art formula. Every day we hear new stories of pain relief from satisfied customers. Shouldn't you try O2 Dermalief too? Score a $5 discount on your purchase of O2 Dermalief. Visit O2Dermalief.com and use promo code SOMO999. That's the letter O, the number 2, Dermalief.com, and enter SOMO999 to get your $5 discount.
There's a touch of madness around here.
Now back to your host.
Quarters 3, intruder alert. GQ 3, intruder alert.
You've been warned.
All right, we're back here live at SoMo Garage, and I want to talk about Pocono a little bit, and I want to talk about shifting there. Dale Jr. had some issues twice, and even during the race today, Kevin Harvick did. Did any of you guys shift during that race?
The only time I tried to shift is when I wrecked going through turn 1, so it didn't work out too well for me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I guess it didn't work out for you either.
During the NIS race, I was shifting through 1, and then I was shifting in 3 for a while until I noticed that my oil temps my water temps were skyrocketing, and I actually had to quit shifting in turn 3 to get those temperatures down.
I was not shifting for the main reason that Joe wrecked. I didn't want to do that.
Yeah, and I wasn't shifting at all because I'm not. It seems like the last 2 years at Pocono, shifting really didn't gain me any advantage. I know years ago shifting was the way to go, especially shifting into 1 and then shifting into 3 really got me a lot of speed off. But I don't know, man. I try it now, and it's either you shift too soon and upset the car really bad, or I don't really see any advantage on it. I know some guys were, but I just couldn't do it.
To me, it just felt like it.
I tried it. I think I tried it in practice, and to me, it just felt like, I guess I wasn't waiting long enough. But when I was downshifting in the 3rd, it just felt like the motor was just screaming, and I didn't want to take a chance of hurting the motor or doing anything, to shorten my race even more. So I decided not to shift either. I don't really think any of the top running guys were shifting. I think you can really get around that place without shifting in the sim, anyways. So it's a shame. I can't believe Kevin Harvick was able to do that to his car today and still be racing for the win there at the end, because you could clearly hear when he downshifted in the 2nd. It sounded like Dale Jr.'s motor, like it hit 12,000 RPM. Although he stuck the clutch in immediately, so that's probably what saved him. That and a really good motor builder.
Yeah, that probably has the Hendrick and Toyota engine builders scratching their heads, because I think they said his engine hit 12,000 RPM there for a second. That's pretty crazy to think about. And that, he finished the race on that, so that is definitely pretty wild.
Contended for the win, no less. So that's definitely that shows you what kind of reliability those Ford motors have. You really don't see motors blowing up anymore. That's why I was kind of surprised to hear about Junior, but then I realized what had happened, and they were talking about something was different. I guess these are new transmissions, and just the feel is not the same anymore as it used to be. I believe that's what I heard.
Yeah, they said instead of it having a straight shift pattern like the old one that he was using had, and the ones the other guys are using, it's at an angle now. So he, like, when he shifts to fourth, he's pulling towards him slightly, and that's why he he did it in practice too, and it's just it being at an angle, I think, really screwed him up. I mean, 20 plus years of racing, doing it one way and changing it, I'm sure that didn't really help him out too much.
You better believe one thing: if it happened to Dale Jr., everybody will be back on the right track next week. They'll go make changes and get it right. I know how he does get things done, and he gets NASCAR's attention, and his team will find a way to make it right. But of course, when you go to Michigan, that's really not a huge concern. But when you get to some of these road courses here coming up, you're definitely going to be facing the same thing again. So it's going to be interesting to see if they get that stuff cleared up before then. So talking about Pocono, still a couple of hard hits today too. Jimmy Johnson took a real hard hit, lost his brakes, couple of brake issues there. What I was going to ask you guys is, do you think that eventually someday iRacing will bring some of these failures into the sim, and you'll have random failures and whatnot?
I think it's coming. I don't know if you guys noticed with this last update, but when you pit, and it might just be me, but I heard some other guys mentioning it, but when you pit now, you'll finish the left side tires, the car will start to go down, and then as soon as you drop the throttle, the car drops to the ground.
Yeah, I do notice that.
So I think it's only a matter of time until we get pit crews and we start having random stuff happen. But I don't think it'll be. I think it'll be more of like a flat tire or something like that.
Yeah, it brings you into that whole discussion again. Where do you see the sim in 10 years from now? I mean, is it going to be as realistic as pretty much just driving a real race car? I mean, are you going to brush the wall, crinkle a fender? The fender cuts the tire down. Using your brakes too much, you have a brake failure. It's all things that I think it would be pretty awesome.
Well, when we raced over in SCE, I know they brought in flat tires. I don't remember but can you imagine the disasters that would happen?
Oh yeah, big wrecks. But it's all the same thing that would happen. On the real life on a racetrack. So it would definitely be cool to see some of that stuff.
I'm with Steven. I think it will come because if you notice, I know it's been several builds, but you damaged your front end too much, and you're going to end up blowing your motor because of the air not getting to it. And some things I've noticed, and maybe it's just because all the builds that were coming in, but I know if you hit the wall, just right, say on the right side, you go to turn, and I mean you can't turn that right wheel anymore. I mean it's done. So it's probably coming. It's just a matter of how they're going to implement it.
Probably little at a time, to get people used to it, I bet you. Because I think now, isn't it, at least I thought it was, when you go into the pits, they're repairing your car. It looks like they're putting panels back on or pieces back on and getting you out of the pits if you're there long enough.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah, I kind of noticed that a little bit, but I wasn't quite sure if that's exactly what was going on or not. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be cool someday when you actually see a pit crew jump over the wall, actually see them working on the car. I mean, I know that would be an incredible amount of work for iRacing to do. And obviously that's not the most important thing on the top of the list for them to work on, but that would definitely be cool to see a live pit crew at work.
So let me ask you now: the Pocono race today, run by NASCAR, were there similarities to the SoMo race Thursday?
Hmm. Yeah, I think a few. I think a little bit of strategy was being played throughout the day in the NASCAR race, and uh, I mean, other than the shifting, I mean, it seemed like pretty much they were all shifting there. But um, yeah, I mean, definitely some similarities for sure.
Well, let's just get the biggest glaring difference out of the way. That is a different paved Pocono than what we are racing.
That's true.
Yeah, so that's another thing I was going to ask too earlier. So they never incorporated that into iRacing, I guess.
I heard they did a scan of it, but they never brought it in.
I was just saying the other night when we were out there racing, I was like, man, this place would probably be a whole different place if it was paved. And I didn't even realize until today that Pocono was repaved in, what was it, 2011 or 2012 or something like that. So, yeah, I mean, it would probably make a huge difference. Paul, you got something to say?
No, no. Well,
Okay. Yeah, but I mean, I think in all, everybody's running the same lines. I mean, I think it always seems to me like the cars always handle better. When you're watching the race, it just seems like they're stuck to the racetrack, and when we're out there racing, it seems like they're kind of sliding all over the place. But I mean, I guess they're probably going through the same thing. You just really don't see it. You don't really see it on TV, but I know the 21 car, and of course he ended up taking it to victory lane today. You could see him sawing on that wheel, and he was driving the ever living crap out of that car, and so it was a handful for him to win that race today, and congratulations to him. I mean, he did a heck of a job holding off Kevin Harvick.
Rise up to the status of the veterans in NASCAR, and I think it's great for Wood Brothers. That puts Ryan Blaney in a pretty elite category, because I think there's only a couple other drivers that have won for Wood Brothers at Pocono, and what they say, David Pearson and Donnie Allison, I believe. So those are some pretty big names. To be able to do that for them is just awesome.
Yeah, and he's been looking pretty good the last couple of weeks. I mean, he's been up in the top 10, running pretty hard. So it's good to see he was able to pull it off today, man, and kind of get that and hopefully move forward.
And what a track to win at too. For your first win to win at Pocono, that's pretty impressive, because that's not an easy racetrack to win at, let alone navigate around. So very cool. And I'm kind of wondering now if now that they got this one under their belt, if they'll start knocking off a couple more this year. I know they were in contention to win a few races this year, and either bad luck happened in the pits or mistakes made on the racetrack that might not even have been their fault. But really cool to see that 21 car back in victory lane again. And I really like this this new class of drivers that are coming in. From Chase Elliott to Ryan Blaney. Just really good guys, and you could tell that they handle themselves very well. I mean, for being as young as they are, like Ryan Blaney was just so calm, and when he had the interview, and it shows, that they're coming into this, their heads are focused, they're ready to do this. So I've seen in the past where they just drag these guys up in the Cup Series. They are not ready to be in the Cup Series. They trash, 15 cars. It seems like in 10 races, and you're just not seeing that out of these new guys. They're taking care of their equipment. They're running like veterans, which is really impressive.
Speaking of new guys, I don't know if you guys happened to catch it today, but after years of trying to get into a cup car, Bubba Wallace made his debut in the Cup Series today.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, he did really good actually. Aside from the pit road speeding penalties that he had, I know he had a few of those today, but he held his own on the racetrack, and I think it won't be long before we'll see him in the Cup Series for sure. So we'll kind of change it up a little bit. Jimmy Johnson continues to break records. He's now tied with Cale Yarborough, and has his sights on Bobby Allison and Darrell Waltrip for 84 wins, which is really, really impressive. And it's really cool that in the modern era you see him breaking these kind of records, because obviously it's harder today to win a race than it was 20 years ago. I mean, there's just no way around it. And to see him doing that today, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know I'm not a huge Jimmy Johnson fan, but you cannot take what he's done or his accomplishments away. He's a hell of a race car driver, and maybe one of the best. That's for sure. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think he's definitely in that class of that style driver. It's coming few and far between now, and you're having a lot of guys retire earlier than you would expect them to, and Jimmy Johnson's just out there running races and still winning still.
Yeah, I think, it's crazy to think that he still is able to have that kind of success with the competition as close as it is in today's time. I don't know. I don't think that we're probably not ever going to see that happen again. I just don't. I don't see any other guys or any up-and-comers putting together that many wins. So I think that Jimmy Johnson's kind of the last of that breed of just all-time greats.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. It's gonna be sad to see him, go out. And I know Jimmy Johnson doesn't have a heck of a lot of years left in him, just because he's got a family and all that, and he's probably gonna race for a few more years and stop. But it's really cool to see them put on a show like that for such a long period of time. I mean, it's just amazing. I mean, they've been on fire for years, and when you think you're going to count Jimmy Johnson out, there he is winning another championship again. So really, really cool. But you got to wonder about this new class of drivers coming in. Are they going to be the next Jimmy Johnson, or someone close to it? Winning this early in their careers and just running this good at this level, it's pretty damn impressive, I'll tell you. All right, guys. One thing I want to talk about before we get to the iRacing issue, the penalties that have been going on lately. Kyle Busch's crew chief and tire changer were suspended for 4 races following the Dover incident where, as you remember, Kyle Busch lost his left rear tire as he was leaving pit road, and also the 29 team on the Truck Series lost a wheel during the race and received the same penalty, 4-race suspension, crew chief and tire changer. In my opinion, I think these penalties are a little bit harsh. I think maybe they should be penalized for a race, or be held a certain amount of laps, but I don't agree with a 4-race suspension of crew chief and tire changer. I think that's a lot.
Here's my problem. It doesn't fall on the tire changer. Why is the tire changer getting suspended? It's that jackman dropping the car way too early, which is the cue for the driver to leave the pit.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if it's something in that aspect, I don't see why they would suspend somebody. Now, if it's due to, not tightening up all the lug nuts or something like that, I can understand that. But if it's just something to where the jackman lets it go early, to me, it don't make any sense.
Yeah, and I don't know if you guys saw the Kyle Busch thing, but they got the tire on there, and the jackman drops the car, and he's gone. And next thing you know, the tire's gone.
Well, I think didn't we talk about this last week with the jackman's looking at I think it's the front tire changer or somebody, and he's not even looking back, or looking at the guys. Joe, I think you were the one that talked about this, right?
Yeah, he's never looking at the back of the car. I think that's just what they practice, because if he's looking both directions, making sure they're both ready and drop it, then it's just costing him time. He'll stop and keep the jack up if someone yells, "Stop, don't drop it," something like that. But, I think I'm with you guys. That penalty, that's kind of crazy. 4 races. I don't know really what to say about that. I mean, the rule was written because of, was last year, the season before, when it wasn't mandatory to hit all 5 lug nuts. And, that rule doesn't exist anymore. So they had a rule infraction for a rule that was written a few years ago that wasn't even meant to apply to this situation. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
It's like they almost got to go back and kind of rewrite that. I could see, a 1 race suspension, and I know they usually put some pretty costly fines on there too. But 4 races seems a little bit crazy. It's I don't know, unless the only way I could see them doing like a 4 race kind of thing is if it was something they got caught intentionally doing, trying to cheat their way through or something. But something like that with Kyle Busch's, you know what I mean? The jack drops, the driver goes, and he's not watching to see because that's the cue, So I don't know, man. But they if that rule is gone, they really need to rework it.
I mean, I don't even think anybody should be suspended. I mean, it's ridiculous. Why I can understand if somebody's cheating or if somebody's caught cheating and the key players involved get suspended. The car chief, whoever else, even the crew chief, because obviously he knows what's going on. But man, hold the guy, bring the guy back in, hold him for 2 laps. Make sure he's not going to win the race and send him back out there again. I mean, that's ridiculous to think that if something like that happens, you're going to get a 4-race suspension. It's just that they really, really need to work on that.
Yeah. And that's basically what NASCAR has just done, is said that human error is not acceptable on pit road, basically, because that's all that was. It was basically 2 almost identical incidents that were just human error, and I just don't agree with the penalty. I don't know.
But we're human, and we're not robots. You know what I mean? Things are going to happen.
Or slow down the pit stops and make sure that the guy looks both ways and make sure everything's clear, or gets a clear signal from somebody saying, hey, yeah, all the tires are on the left side of the car. I mean, how much longer is that really going to take? Another second? But if you slow everybody down, you're all in the same boat. So it's not a big deal. But,
one way they could easily, and I mean easily, fix that issue, and on top of that, it's going to make the pit safer for everybody. You allow 1 extra guy over the pit wall. He's not allowed to touch the car. All he's allowed to do is, while the pit guy or while the jackman's watching the front, as soon as the rear's done, he just taps his back to let him know it's good. That fixes the whole issue right there.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely ways that they can work on that, but Again, I really hope somebody does something, or NASCAR does something about the suspensions, because that's ridiculous. Paul, let's talk about the iRacing deal that happened the other day. I know you brought this to my attention earlier, and I did not get a chance to read on it, but give us an overview of what happened during the Le Mans race, was it?
Yeah, it was during the Le Mans race. We've a lot of guys. I know there's been some server issues for a while. I know a lot of guys are complaining, saying that it happened now with this last build. And don't get me wrong, I'm not bad mouthing iRacing. I don't want to trash them, but we've noticed it and we've even talked about it a little bit. You know what I mean? iRacing definitely has a great product, but there's still things that need to be repaired and need to be fixed that seem to have not been. And during the live broadcast, I think more than half the field fell through, driver fall through and all. And, that's pretty bad. And this isn't the only time it's happened. It's happened through the, peak antifreeze series a couple times and a few other series that are live broadcasts, and big. So I guess now it really stirred the pot. And actually, Steve was the one that shared a little bit more information with me about it. So, Steve, you want to take over?
From what I've kind of read through, on the forums and whatnot, it's actually it was a known memory leak at Le Mans, and I mean, I guess this memory leak was known all the way back in December when the track was known, and guys were warning iRacing about it and warning them, and they never got around to fix it. And then you put, what is it, 30, I think it was probably about 40, and you have 40 teams racing at one point on the same track, and you have 3 drivers. So you probably have more than 120 drivers registered for this thing, and it was just this. It wasn't really the server fault. It was something with the track that caused everybody to drop out almost all at the same time. And then I started seeing all the pictures of all the top name teams pulling off in the pits or pulling off on the front stretch and just parking their car.
That's amazing. And you got to wonder, if anything's really going to come out of this. I mean, that's a big deal. It's not like some little league, just having some server issues. That's a pretty big race. It's a big deal, and to have something like that happen, and then have a whole bunch of guys involved that are not happy, might make a difference.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Hopefully, like you understand, there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and there's a lot of things that have to go right to make everything work with multiplayer and all. And when you think about what we're doing and where everybody's coming from, I mean, it's just it's just a lot. So for a glitch to happen here and there or something to happen, but man, I read some of the posts that are going on. I mean, dudes are calling for strikes and all kinds of stuff, and I was like, wow, man, that's I guess a lot of people are really upset. I think it's more embarrassing because it was live. It was a 24-hour Le Mans, big event. A lot of people do race it. A lot of people watch it. I know we've always said, and we don't know if there's any truth to it or not, but when we have problems in the league and we tell iRacing about it, it seems like it goes, but it's just league racing. It's not really important. The concentration is more on the upper series. Well, now the problem's in the upper series, so my view is hopefully now it's got the attention, and they're gonna have to get on it ASAP.
Yeah, that's definitely wow. I mean, after hearing about it, man, I'm really surprised that it wasn't taken care of earlier. And it takes something like this, to cause such a disrupt. It's going to be interesting going forward to see what happens. And of course, we'll definitely talk about it more if anything does come out of it, and we'll definitely report any more information that comes forward. Paul, do you want to talk about what's going on this week in SoMo?
Yes, sir. We got Tuesday night in the Lazy Days Racing Truck Series. Gateway for 125 laps. That should be pretty good. Gateway's a pretty decent track. A lot of guys that we talked to said they like it, and we're hoping that the setup is decent there, and we continue on the stride that we're going on these long green flag runs, low cautions, and let that work into play. But that'll be right on SR Broadcasting Tuesday night at 8:45, and then Wednesday night, the Lazy Days Racing Xfinity Series will be at Michigan for 135 laps, and that will be right on SR Broadcasting at 8:45 also, and should be a pretty good race. And then Thursday night on Parks Brothers Racing, the Lazy Days Racing Cup Series will be at Michigan for 145 laps. That one is going to be brought to you by Portside Jaguar Land Rover, and should be pretty good. And last week was the first week with Parks Brothers Racing at Pocono, live on their broadcast. We're really happy with what they did. Definitely a great format, great broadcast. Really, really good job. So we look forward to see what happens at Michigan. Tune in 8:45 all 3 nights, and you'll see all 3 series in SoMo running.
Yep. Definitely going to be a fun week coming up. Michigan's a fun racetrack to race at, and definitely looking forward to some good racing there. And as always, guys, it's a pleasure, and we look forward to seeing you all next week. Have a good night.
Yes, sir, and thanks for tuning in, everybody. If you like it, don't forget to like and subscribe. Join us here every week, and we'll see you next week.